Welcome to In This Body, the online event to support parents and caregivers with staying regulated, embodied, and connected, even when things get intense. And today I'm honored to have such a wonderful speaker, Kathleen Scherek. Kathleen is a sacred parenting mentor and founder of the Sacred Child Summit that bridges science and spirit into practical everyday steps around the early care for children. She mentors new and intended parents, grandparents, and child professionals around childhood, beginning before conception. An award-winning educator, Kathleen co-founded a long-standing land-based Montessori school, and she is a former university associate dean, advisor to the Gates and Walton Foundations, and consultant to Fortune 200 executives. For over 35 years, Kathleen has studied the latest in neuroscience, child development, energy psychology and health, quantum physics, and world religions. She is the parent of three young adults and grandparent to four. As I said, I'm so honored to have you here.
Oh, it's my great pleasure, Nadine. It's my great pleasure. We're going to have some fun talking today.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
look
so
forward to it.
me too, me too. So, so let,
I have to say that I giggle a little bit every time like there's an introduction that mentions that I worked with Fortune 200 executives
Mhm.
because people are like, what, that? And then like 2-year-olds and there's not a lot of difference sometimes. So it makes me giggle thinking about the beautiful stubbornness and intention to be themselves and do what they want to do, and uh, there's a lot of synergy between that. That's not why I was doing it, by the way, but it makes me giggle each time.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, if I could start and just say, what a lovely title of an experience in this body, because especially now, it just seems like there are so many opportunities, like to not be in our bodies, to be controlled by other things that are outside of us, and to be in the body and experience embodiment is such a gift that I think we can easily forget, especially with the stresses
Yes.
of caregiving, especially with the stresses of parenting, grandparenting, whatever profession someone may be in that is taking care of others.
Yes, yes. And we make it too serious and we kind of get lost in the over seriousness.
Well, and it is that. So this is, isn't this the big paradox? To me, this is the big paradox, and to me, it's one of, in some ways, it's a paradox of play. But the paradox is that here we are tending to others' life forces,
Mhm.
and when do we light ourselves up? When do we do that for ourselves? It can get lost in all the busyness, right, of the paying bills and going to school and working and balancing all the logistics of all the things that we care for, making meals, whatever end of the spectrum of parenting or grandparenting or caregiving we're at, whether it's changing diapers or getting them to their high school games. There's logistics and stress involved, and I think we can easily forget to take care of the light within ourselves. And I mean, because light is a real thing. We are walking, talking electrical fields.
Mhm.
And when we know, and you know this, that the research from Heart Math Institute that I quote a lot because it just has continued to be confirmed over time, at least 35 years now, is that the electromagnetic system of our body can affect those others within at least 3 feet. And there's more research that says now it's 8 feet. And then if you understand quantum physics at all, you can affect people non locally, which means they don't even need to be near you, with your thoughts and emotions and with how you go through the world. So, taking care of this beautiful body and the experience of embodiment is something I think it's easy to forget about because we're living I'm going to ask, if that is really what we're doing, because children are. They just are. They explore. They're filled with wonder. Every day there's new experiences every day. And then as adults, we have all of these things to take care of. We're making decisions all the time. So are we really living or are we existing? And that becomes something to not only ponder, but also let's perhaps take some action on getting back to the living. And you've been so kind to introduce me. I do want to share that I was a single mom of three young children under the age of 5 at one point. Had my own business. I was traveling. It's those Fortune 200 guys and women. And but I also, and I was just, life was full, creating organizations like the school that you mentioned and things like that. And I know well, I was not a perfect parent. I was not. And I also know well the stresses that are involved with ensuring that those who you care for have the best experience that they're here to have, so
Mhm.
that you're not in the way, and by accident even. So you're not accidentally in the way of whatever they're here to do or who they're here to be, and all of that. That if we can look at it on the one hand as like a stressful journey, am I doing the right things? Am I, now there's, it's so much of a proliferation of making sure your children are doing things that's going to help them be wonderful people. If we start with the notion they're already wonderful, and maybe I need to get out of the way in some of these endeavors and experiences, that sometimes is quite a different approach that is taken.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have such
Yes.
wonderful experience with teens and with the caregivers and parents of teens and all, Nadine. What do you think about this whole embodiment and the stress and the energies behind it?
Yes, I think the first thing is a lot of us are just following what we're told that this is the way, that you should, get this stable career, own the house, go on this vacation. And we kind of forget what lights us up and
Yeah.
what lights our kids up. And I'm also a mom of four, and my eldest will turn 19 this year.
Wee!
Yeah, yeah. And I've noticed sometimes our like our best memories are not when we were kind of on that very eh, fancy vacation. It was just in the living room, like
Yeah.
simple, easy.
Yeah.
But we get so taken by society, and we see what others are doing, and comparison. And with teens these days, it's a lot with social media
Oh
and
my
the need
goodness.
to keep
Yes.
up. So I think that's the thing. And you touched on getting out of the way of our
Yeah.
kids, and this is part of it, like not putting our projections on them. And they're different from us, and they
They're
have their
different.
own thing.
Yes, they're different
Yeah.
from us, and also, they're. My approach is to ask us to consider that we are the children of parents, and we have children in our lives for some purpose. Like there's intention behind it. And sometimes, just as you're pointing out, we can get caught up in the purposes others tell us it needs to be, rather than what we might consider to be a soul contract, a soul agreement between those that we're caring for. And Dr. Gladys McGarry was a good friend of mine, and my entire family, my parents and all. Dr. Gladys was one of the co-founders of the American Holistic Medical Association. She passed, made her transition and passed away a year and a half ago at almost 104 years old. And she has so many wise words to share. And one I just, it is with me every day, is that life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved.
Mm.
And that's a hard thing to live with, or to kind of get your hands around it, or get your mind or your heart around it, when you're in the middle of growing children who are growing, and they wake up the next day and they're different, and now they're experiencing something else, and they've got a little crisis going on, or um, they need attention for some reason. So this mystery of life, I think you and bringing these speakers together in this wonderful experience you're having are are doing a great service in having us explore, what does it mean to embody? What does it actually mean? And does it mean that we're here to do all this stuff? Or, and I might call it, what's the job of embodiment? Like, what's the job? What's a job description? um, and we may have a different kind of description depending on who is in our life with our children and all. And also, perhaps there's a play to embodiment. And I'm just saying, let's all consider that. Perhaps embodiment is about playing, because really the soul is playful. The soul is filled with joy. The soul is about beauty and unlimited potential and awesome experiences. This is what the soul is about. This is what lights up the inners of us. I'm going to say the inner child, even, is maybe the inner child and the soul are similar, because really the soul is our essence. So in this process of embodiment, if we take it as a job to kind of check all the boxes, that can be part of it. And also, let's just not forget, we've got this other connection that didn't just stop once we took a breath. It didn't just stop. And what I strongly suggest is that when we consider that staying in touch with our essence, with our authenticity, with what lights us up, staying in touch with our soul, if we can do that all through these different stages of embodiment that we're here to experience, it keeps us grounded, it keeps us aligned, it keeps us positioned to be the best that we can be, which is what we strive to do when we have children in our care, or anyone else that we're caring for, teens and others. So this whole the playfulness aspect of embodiment is something I think we forget. I think we forget, and we think it's all about just childhood. I say just. I should remove the just.
Yeah.
Because the inner child, so how challenging is it, however, to stay in touch with your inner child, when the house is dirty, when meals aren't getting made, when you're late, chronically late to get places because you got to change diapers, or you've got to make sure somebody's emotionally okay to go do this thing. And I was strongly suggesting that the aspect of play is, if we can embody play, even for a second, it reconnects us to the heart. It changes the energetics of our whole body, because all of a sudden we breathe. All of a sudden our heart variability rate can smooth out. We get in what's called a coherent state. Now, by the way, becoming coherent, like, it's not easy. It is challenging. The Heart Math Institute has some instruments that you can use. It's not as easy as closing your eyes and taking a breath. It takes some work to become coherent, but that doesn't mean we don't try, and it doesn't mean in the 3 minutes that we have while they're getting into the car with all their friends and everything, and we're about to take them somewhere else, in those 3 minutes, we can center ourselves and can come to a place of playfulness, whatever that might mean. It could mean different things for different people.
Yeah, and that was like my next question. For someone who is curious, what does play involve? Uh, what can
You
you
know,
say to that?
you're going to think I'm a little cuckoo, actually, but that's all okay because when you have a certain commitment to staying aligned, whatever that might be. Even after everybody's in bed, to do whatever short ritual, long ritual, whatever it might be, to stay aligned with who you're really here to be and not be swept up in all of the other things around. Sometimes you just do kind of cuckoo things, but I'll start with the easy stuff. And the easy stuff is like to find humor. And humor is not like sarcasm. Sarcasm is not funny for children. For teens, they've got a little more developed of a sense, but still, sarcasm is cutting. And I think, as a society, we've kind of built sarcasm up to be, oh, you didn't get the joke and whatever. But anything that's unkind is not playful, it's not funny. What I would call play would be things that and by light you up, like laughter. What makes you giggle? What makes you, your intro to me made me giggle again. And movement. So humor, laughter, movement, something that reconnects us on, I'm going to say on the inside, but what I'm talking about reconnects us at the heart level with what's most important, and that is the the embodiment of this soul connection. This soul connect, even for just a minute, no matter where you are. You can be at a football game, watching your child on the in the benches. You can watch your child on the field. You can watch your child cheerleading, whatever it might be. You can take a couple of minutes. It can even be 30 seconds, and do whatever exercise works for you, whatever experience works for you. I often talk about touchstones, for example, as something, and I was reminded when I was getting ready to talk with you today that there was a time when I was when I had the young children, and there were two different experiences. One was, I'll just mention the one. I couldn't keep the house clean. It was just challenging to keep the house clean. And the ages were 3, 5, and 7. And I was like, what can I do here? This floor, I had like maybe 30 feet of tile at one point in my house. And I just thought, okay, I need a break. The floor needs to be cleaned. What can I do to involve the children? And again, this is where, you have to be a little cuckoo sometimes, but it's all okay as long as everybody's safe and healthy and everything is kind. My children got their socks on, got out the soapy water, got out the mops, and they did, like a splash pad. I'm just saying. And put on shirts, sliding across on shirts. Did the floor get clean? No. Did I check it? No, I didn't, because you don't check their work when they're around. I would, check after. But the synergy between them about the delight and the playfulness of they're washing the floor with their socks and their t-shirts on their tummies, sliding across in the soapy water. Just even witnessing that lifted me. And I know it's a core memory for them. Did I plan it? No, I did not plan it. So the spontaneity of some of these things, we just have to be open to a little bit of craziness, a little bit of funniness, something that's out of the ordinary. So, I often say if we seek novelty, like seek something odd or unusual, that can make things funny. It can make things playful, uplifting, like looking for something out of the ordinary that you can do or that you can treat a situation a little differently. Now with teens, they're not going to be sliding across a floor, I don't think. But there are, at every age level, there are things that we can do like to involve them, that also lights us up.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. I love the idea of spontaneity and seeking the out of ordinary things and
Yeah, which
and
is hard to
being
do, isn't it?
open.
It's hard
Yeah,
to do,
yes.
Nadine, when you like, routines are helpful. So something
Hmm.
that's maybe out of the routine might not be our normal go-to. And yet, if we consider it once in a while, magic could happen.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I want to go back to when you said like embodying play, and like the thought that came to me was, oh, see a newborn or like a 4 month old baby, and like they're a whole embodiment of play,
Yeah.
and their soul is just shining out. And yeah, of course they cry when they're, when they're hungry and a bit cold maybe, but in their nature they're such a like uh, a role model to look up to.
Yes, and even as they grow, because they just are.
Hmm.
They're being whatever occurs to them in that moment. They're being. We try to control children's environments, and of course they need to be safe and healthy and those kinds of things. Um, and yet, if they're allowed to be themselves, now we still have education, educational processes and things, and yet um, that's a whole nother interview. But around, why do we think children don't know how to learn? They are experts at learning. They learned how to speak, how to walk, how to be in the world. And so they're just, everyone learns, every single child learns differently, every single one. So we talk about this, goes in a different direction, but neurodivergence and all of that it just means every single one of us, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful that way. But the if we come back to children are natural at playing too, playing to them is like exploring the world, exploring it, and the science around play is that it develops cognition. It develops strong cognition. Now there's structured play, there's unstructured play, and those kinds of things. But the dopamine and the endorphins that are released through play have create new neural pathways in the brain. It it increases self-regulation, it increases creativity, it increases resilience. What adult can't use increases in all these things? uh, I need those. I need those. So, at a point in time years ago, there were, when people were working at innovative tech firms and all, the company environments were spurred by all this research on play, because you came to these new, startup tech firms, and they knew that play increased productivity and innovation and creativity and social skills and emotional intelligence and all these things. So their environments had ping pong tables and all these. Now that people work from home, has that been supplanted with anything fun? Maybe. But I would just ask people to, your audience, anyone that I'm in touch with, really, and to consider what environment you're working in and be sure to add the play aspect. Like, just ensure that there's some element in there, whatever that might be for you. And, play, adults can think different things about play, parties, or, socializing, whatever it might be. That might be a kind of adulting kind of play, maybe. And yet, this is the kind of play that I'm talking about is one that involves movement and connection to the soul. So, if drinking a martini brings you closer to your soul, that's up to you. But the part of soul connection that I find so intriguing and uplifting is that suddenly you start to have experiences that bring you back to that place of awe, that place of awe. like when a child first sees a flower, what do they think? What do they think that is? When they first smell a lilac or a rose, what are they thinking? So, one of the other aspects of how to engage in play is like release your senses. We are commonly taught that we have five senses, the hearing, um, you know them all.
Yeah, yeah. Smelling,
Touch,
tasting. Yeah.
smelling, sight, and all these. So, five senses. But there's more and more research that shows there's at least 20 some say 37 different senses. And so we're not bound. We're not bound. We don't need to be bound. And, there's fascinating research, again, another conversation around synesthesia, which is a mixture of senses within a certain person's experiences. So, how fascinating if we as adults caring for children, teens, or anyone really, if we understood that everyone might have an ability to mix their senses. And so to clarify that means is, for example, there's many musicians that hear music and see colors. There are books out. Born on a Blue Day, I believe, is one. And so by blue, that means that Tuesdays are always blue to that author. So the mixture of color, numbers, music, and our experiences, this is, again, to stay aware of our senses and how we can both understand them in our children at whatever age they're at, and make it totally okay for them to say, oh, I heard red, or I heard blue. I actually have this condition, but I did not know it until like 20 years ago. Never knew it. Went to a
Mhm.
retreat and had some experiences, and I thought, oh, wow, that is. So we have some of these things, again, the mystery of life.
Mhm.
Life is a mystery to be lived. Isn't it fun to think about some of these possibilities? If we use senses to play, for example, what are some of the things that we can do with aromas to engage our children, to calm them, to calm ourselves? What are some of the things that we can do with the beautiful Bach flower remedies, for example? So that help address emotional conditions of whatever it might be. Grief. I mean, at a certain stage in life, everybody has had some grief and trauma with a big T, trauma with a little t, whatever it might be. And the whole concept of play helps us to move through all these elements of embodiment that we're here to experience.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I love all this, and bringing in the senses and the sensual part sort of adds the joy and the pleasure, like the pleasure of being in the 3D experience.
Yes.
And you know what comes up for me as a challenge to this is uh, guilt or shame that sometimes, especially we as mothers, carry because of that, again, the expectations and the responsibilities that are projected on the role of parents or
Yeah.
mothers.
Yeah.
And we feel guilty when we are having fun.
Oh, when we're having fun. Again, part of the paradox, right? That's part
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
paradox again, is that we need play, and yet we don't feel right about allowing ourselves to do that. And so, if there is a way, one of the ways to do that is to involve the children in the play, whatever it might be. Um, there's so many different directions that you can go with what play means to your own inner child. To some it might mean coloring in a coloring book. To someone else, it might mean throwing a baseball across the yard. It brings great joy. So, whatever brings joy, if we can connect that, and we don't have to, but if we're able to connect it with our children in some way, they both can see that we're vulnerable, which is, it's a beautiful thing for our children, whatever age they're at, to know that we're vulnerable, to know that we
Mhm.
are we are just like them in some ways. Um, I have a good friend, pediatrician, integrative pediatrician, who wrote a whole series called Be the Boss of Me. I'm the boss of me, kind of thing. It's a whole holistic series. And when we think we're the boss of children, that separates us from them. When we can engage in some playful activities with them, and it doesn't have to be something we're uncomfortable with, but it brings us on the same, we're like on the same page where they can see us for that moment for who we are. It doesn't mean we're the ones that put up the guardrails. We put up the guardrails for our families, for our children, for ourselves, whatever it might be. But that, guilt is a big one. It's that can be one that it's almost like pulling out a wart of like what heritage do we have where this might be common, and something that we know through epigenetics, that even though we can inherit things through our DNA, that inherited DNA does not need to express itself at all unless it's given certain conditions. And so the beauty of some of that kind of stuff we might have gotten from our family tree or whatever it might be, that we have some choices we can make around it to soften it, to say, to look it in the eyes and say, what am I really guilty about? And how do I turn this around into being an experience that my children and I can both like step out of guilt around? I mean, guilt has an energy, and joy has an energy. And, sometimes we wait for an experience to bring us joy. What I have found very dramatically is there's two experiences that if we can emote them first, everything else goes smoother. It's just, and one of them we know is gratitude. And that again is also heart math research from decades and decades ago. That when we can find something in a difficult situation, not just I'm grateful to be a parent, or I'm grateful my children are healthy. Those are all good things. And also when we're in the midst of a horrible situation, something that hurts our soul, if we can find something to be grateful for, it can change the trajectory of how we experience that situation. The gratitude, and the other one is joy. When joy is a conscious, like if you can find a touchstone for joy, I mentioned touchstone before and then I didn't even really say anything, but if you have a touchstone, whether it's, I just found a note card that was written by my father, who is no longer with us. And that note card, I just refound it, as I want to say. It's a touchstone for me. It reminds me of a joyful time. It reminds me of something that was important to me and what he might be thinking at this moment, that kind of thing. Whatever joy means to you as an individual, you as a parent, you as a spouse, as a whatever it might be, to find, is it a stone from a place that you love? Is it a song? Is it, again, think of all the senses when you're thinking of a touchstone, that when things get hard, you might carry it in your pocket every day. When things get hard, you have a reminder. And the reminder is, the reminder is to play. The reminder is that we're more than in a body experiencing a whole list of things that we check off. We're more than that. And I find that play, even if we can engage in it in a short period of time, it can untangle us from all the things. Like the phrase, all the things. I think, most parents understand what that means. There's just a long list. It's all the things. Get their clothes, the shoes. They're growing so fast. I got to get more shoes. I just got shoes 6 months ago. They got named, blah blah, and but all the things. There's for that moment of play, we're reconnected and realigned with our soul, with the essence of who we are, and who we're meant to be. And so, life, I sometimes describe it as it's often entangled. We're entangled in different scenarios and relationships and situations and all. And to a great extent, we may be, this is part of the life path that we are here to experience. And and then other times, there's times of kind of clarity and alignment where instead of entanglement, we're entwined. And entwinement to me is like a dance. Like all the things are still there, but they're working smoothly, and we don't have the energy around them that is of stress or of upsetness, because we're dancing with it, because we know that on the other side of it, everything's working out. And so there's a great level of trust involved in all of this, right? With play.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, so true, so true. And like it just brings me back to that idea of paradox. Like it is the paradox of life. And yes, there is the pain, there is the work, there is the effort, but there's also the other side of it, the joy and uh, the sense of wonder. Uh, yeah.
And the
So
whole
maybe to, yeah.
our when coherence, when we know that coherence in our energetic, like our walking, we're a walking talking field of electricity or electromagnetic field. It's sometimes called the biofield, for example. And there's so much wonderful research going on about this. It's just so exciting. But when we know that this kind of thing improves our decision making, like when we're coherent, I mentioned it sometimes can be a little challenging to get to coherence, but even if we try, it's better than being the opposite, like upset and anxious. And because when we do that, everything shuts down. We're not able to absorb. We can't see our children for who they really are, what they're trying to do. We have our own filters that we put on. Some of them made, some of them given to us to use or not use, and all that. But when we know that being coherent affects decision making, can affect, having our ability to see broader outcomes, and the ability to simply learn. I mean, when the soul is here to grow through love, play just has to be a part of it. The embodiment experience is what I mean. It has to be part of the embodiment experience. And so you have brought up so many wonderful concepts, like, guilt and all. It really is a journey for each of us. It's a journey for each of us. The caring of anybody, caring for anybody, whether children or not,
Mhm.
and whatever
Yeah.
role we might be in. And I just, we forget about nature and using nature to come back into alignment, using nature to play. Um, I I was with a little 2-year-old, and he started out like hitting a tree with a stick. And as I watched him, he put the stick down and he went up and hugged the tree. I mean, we made a game out of running from tree to tree and hugging them. You know, the sense of joy and peace and calm that can come from this. I have a colleague who calls it a co-partnership with nature, and to invite nature in, whether we live in a city, whether we are in the rural countryside, whatever it might be. Here's a resource that we do not use fully in most cases, as fully as we can. Children love to plant seeds. Children love to care for things. Um, you know, the whole social media aspect of family life is such a challenging thing, and I have deep respect for parents who are trying to manage um, things like being in nature and with technology. It can be done, though I talked about a number of things. Seeking novelty, like something spontaneous and out of the ordinary to either say or do with your teen, with those you're caring for, with your young child, whatever it might be. Talking about laughter, finding things to laugh about, the sense of humor, not sarcasm, but things that are really funny. And exploring things with senses, like the smelling and the fragrances, the aromas, the ability to feel things, to hear songs, explore things that are different with that. Recapping some of the things that I talked about novelty and about humor and about touchstones as well, having a touchstone, whatever it might be to you, and exploring the senses and nature, that these are all ways to, and you know, if you have children and a dirty floor, I find, I have grandchildren, and the minute I walk in the door, they want to do airplanes. So if you know what airplanes are, when I lay on the ground and they're on my feet and they're flying in the air, so to speak. So we've got to stay
Yeah.
limber. We've got to stay nimble as we care for children at all stages, because we don't know what's around the corner. And maybe I'm the airplane grandma. Who knows? But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would strongly suggest that if everyone or anyone listening is struggling with um, play or playfulness, I do have a gift that is a video tapping session around any obstacles that we might have just with our own emotional bodies, within our own energetic being, to being playful ourselves. And Nadine, you'll show them where to find that and everything. But my other thought
Yeah.
is to invite your audience to just consider to find one thing today that's playful, whether it's a conversation, whether it's um, whether it's listening in a different way, because sometimes our filters cut off what's actually happening because we want to see through our own eyes instead of through the eyes of the child that's in our care. Just to do one thing different today or this week or maybe this month, but just do one thing different that can open the heart to playfulness and keep us aligned with who we're here to be.
Mhm, mhm. That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. Um, and
Are there any other questions that you have or thoughts? I love the
um,
conversation.
yeah, and I can be here forever, but it's like the idea of play is such a simple uh, concept that we always forget, but it has such profound impacts on our home environment. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, it does. And in fact, you're actually touching on something because the environment matters. The
Hmm.
environment matters to children, to teens, you know, um, both how it's set up. It doesn't have to be spotless and all of that, but there needs to be some corner, some area where they can feel totally themselves. Either
Hmm.
as a young
Hmm.
child, something that speaks to them, an area of beauty, an area that they're drawn to. As a teen, it might be an area of calm or an area where they feel they can just breathe. And
Yeah.
that could be different for each child, but that environment really matters.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Any last quick thing you want to leave our listeners with?
It just,
Just
like you said, I love what you said. Play is simple. Like, with all of the things that I was doing for so many years with young children and I offer this. The one thing that I did every birthday is we had balloons. And I know there's a helium thing and all that now, but a balloon to me was the one thing that I could look at it. It's a touchstone. I look at a balloon in my family home and it meant joy to me. It meant joy. So whatever those touchstones are, you can like sprinkle them in your environment so that you're reminded as you're going from room to room, as you're getting in and out of the car, whatever it might be, you are reminded of who you really are, which is a joyful, playful being filled with love. And it's hard to remember it sometimes. I just find the physical pieces matter.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you, Nadine. I look forward to talking with you
thank you.
more. And thank you
Yeah,
to your lovely audience. My best wishes for all of the caregiving and like care receiving for ourselves. Our own inner child is saying, "Hello, remember me."
yes, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine.